I just bought the first of no doubt many expansions for The Sims 3 World Adventures. And you know what the first thing is that I noticed when picking it up? The price tag. $40. This absolutely caught me off guard. Hasn't every Sims expansion been $30 in the past? What could they possibly deliver in an expansion that is worth $40? Well, hopefully I will answer that question in the review to follow. World Adventures is an expansion, and of course works just the same whether you have the Collector's Edition, the regular retail game. You just need The Sims 3. I bought mine at Target, and actually only paid $35 for it since it's on sale this week. Here's a bit of advice from a former Target employee. If you're going to buy a new game right after it comes out, especially if it's an EA game, always check Target first. EA and Target have this sort of strange deal going on behind the scenes. They almost always have it on sale. So being $35 did make the price a little bit better, but it's still a lot for an expansion in my opinion. So what do you get for the money? Well, you might get a lot of aggravation getting the game to actually work. It took me over an hour to install the game and all the patches that you need to download. There's like 4 of those. And once it finally installed all the patches properly, the game didn't have any sound, and then it wouldn't save my game at all. Honestly, the best way to get the game to work for sure is to remove your old save games, delete any mods you may have, uninstall the whole game, and start all over from scratch. Obviously that's not ideal, and you can get it to work otherwise, but I found that many of the bugs in the game disappeared when I started a new neighborhood. Could just be me though, although I've seen quite a few people complaining online. The premise of World Adventures is that now your Sims can go on a vacation and have adventures around the world. Go figure. You know, I've always been disappointed with the previous vacation expansions like Sims Vacation and Bon Voyage because of all the loading times and the fact that it just seemed like it was missing the whole vacation aspect of it. It wasn't very fun. Locations were basically the same and there weren't really any new events. All you could do was go to a different place and do the same thing you did at home with different surroundings. Thankfully, in World Adventures, that is not the case. Hence the reason it is not called World Vacations, because you actually do have adventures. If you've played Sims Castaway Stories, you know exactly what to expect here. You'll take a Sim to an exotic location and try to solve everyone's problems through puzzles, including your own. There are 3 locations to choose from: China, France, and Egypt, all with their appropriate Simifiedness. The first time around, you can only stay for 3 days since you have a travel visa to keep up with. You can upgrade your visa the more adventures you complete, and eventually you stay there long enough to go on enough adventures, you can buy property. First, you arrive at the base camp, and you can really do whatever you want from there. There's a board where Sims will post adventures for you to go on, and there's also a little town nearby to complete different small activities. There's also shops and houses, new Sims, unique items. The adventures themselves, though, are what really sets this expansion apart from any other one before. These involve exploring tombs, finding rare items, talking to and manipulating other Sims, and stuff like that. They really make the game feel like a game. For once, your Sims will have a real and defined purpose, if only for a short time. Exploring tombs really exploits this idea to its fullest. Each tomb is complete with multiple levels, traps, secrets, puzzles, and of course, plenty of loot. The expected nods are there to Indiana Jones movies and stuff like that, but it's not all derivative, and thankfully they are fun to solve, even though they're basically the same for each location. You also have new items you'll need to plan ahead to use, such as a shower in a can and dried food. Without these, your Sim will probably go crazy and possibly die, even though dying is pretty hard to do in here. The entire adventure setup is very lighthearted and fun, of course. It's a Sims game, and there's no sign of local law enforcement, so you're pretty much free to camp out on an ancient monument or whatever else you want to do, really. Another nice addition to the game are new skills, traits, and lifetime rewards. These include things like photography, martial arts, and nectar collecting, which is the Sim version of being a wine connoisseur. Photography is my favorite, and really adds a very different dimension to every part of the game, even when you go back home. You can use filters and different lenses once you get better at it, and it adds a new thing to collect, photographs. Who would have guessed? You can sell these, or you can just go around and collect every type of photograph in a collection, much the same you would with collecting rocks in a collection, or dead bodies. Whatever you collect. Strangely, there's hardly any new items included in the game, barely any clothes at all, except for some adventurer-style outfits. So this was a bit disappointing. What few new items there are pretty much just based on something that you would find on your adventure anyways. However, there is a new pagoda Asian roof style, as well as roof ornaments, which are kind of interesting. And finally, you can build basements and cellars. It's the first sim game to do that, and you'll need to do these in order to collect and store wine. But you can also make completely awesome steampunk torture dungeons. Not that I would ever do that or anything. My problem with this expansion is the whole thing. Compared to how free and open The Sims 3 feels, going on a vacation feels like an immense burden. The loading times are pretty long in between areas, and taking any more than one sim is an absolute nightmare, and you should just not do it. I end up sending one sim at a time to complete the chores abroad, since you can only stay for a few days at a time the first time you go. I ended up sending my extra sims I left at home to my torture dungeon while I was on vacation, so I don't have to deal with them. And it's expensive. Usually a trip can end up costing a couple of thousand simoleons just for sending one sim. Sure, you'll make money along the way, but it's not always a lot. Also, the adventures themselves really make the game feel like it's doing something it wasn't meant to do. The Sims is all about freedom and random events, but the adventures feel really linear and constrictive compared to everything else, and not everyone is going to like this. It's the chunk of the game, and it is still pretty fun, but it feels like it's adding something I never asked for. What I wanted were more items, more skills, more ways to interact with the Sims around me, and better torture dungeons. And I got all of the above, yes, but in very limited amounts. Mostly what I got was this new adventure mode, which is fun and different, but it's not exactly what I was looking for in a Sims game. So, is it worth paying $40 for? I would say no way. The basements and the skills that it gives you aren't worth that much, and the adventure mode is not going to be for everyone. And with the first stuff pack coming out in February of 2010, hopefully the lack of new items will be taken care of, because all those downloadable ones online do not count. World Adventures does give someone looking for more of a role-playing experience something to do, and learning the new skills and secret items can be fun. I would say the expansion is probably worth about $25, and really that's kind of what I paid. You see, the game actually comes with $10 worth of sim points to use in the Sims store. I guess that's supposed to make you feel like you're paying less, but I would have just much rather them taken $10 off the price to begin with, instead of giving me worthless virtual points. The expansion has its charm, but in my opinion, it just costs too much for too little charm. Unfortunately, I don't see it going down in price anytime soon, because these expansions never do. So, you will need to make the call to buy it or not yourself.